Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report, week number 1 NFL preseason. I am Drew Martin, joined by the man, the myth, the legend himself in the NFL betting world, Teddy Covers, at Teddy_covers on Twitter, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, welcome in. It's a good day, man. Week 1 NFL preseason.
It's sure. I think this is the 20th year now that I've been doing an opening line report every Monday for the entirety of the NFL season. Season 20? You haven't been my co-host the whole way, Drew, but you've been my co-host now for years and years. I enjoy doing it with you. I'm excited about breaking down week 1 of the NFL preseason. But before I do that, let me talk about a few notes about preseason betting in general. And let me start with this. You're going to hear a ton about quarterback rotations. Every other show you watch on NFL preseason is going to break down quarterback rotations, that and the other. I'm not talking about QBs today. I'm really not. The bets I'm going to make for week 1 of the preseason are not necessarily QB rotation related. That's point 1. Point 2, home field edge for a standard NFL preseason game is 0. All right, so we're not adding home field edge. Sometimes there are situations for first-year head coaches, if they're winless and at home, that can be a bet on where you give a home field edge for a team. But in general, home field edge is pretty close to 0 in August. NFL preseason rule that I have, and it's a rule. Most of the rules have exceptions. This one doesn't have a whole lot of exceptions. At -3 or higher. Remember, the key numbers in the NFL season are not, in preseason, are not threes. They're 1, 1.5, 2 are the key numbers because so many games get decided right at the end with a field goal. They're going to go for 2 points in the fourth quarter. No one's playing for overtime. So 3 is not the key number in the preseason. At -3 or higher, I need bet on and bet against to lay the chalk. How good a team's going to be in September has nothing to do with how good they're going to be in August. That's something that many beginning bettors struggle with. And again, the whole QB rotations. I'm focusing on head coaches. I'm focusing on coordinators. I'm talking about tendencies and game plans. When it comes to quarterback rotations, you're going to see all this printed out. These are the QBs that they have. Doesn't matter. Who's going to play quarterback this week? How long will they play this week? Is a coach going to give them an offensive line, a competent offensive line to work behind? Are they working offensive line, third and fourth stringers into the mix? Do they have any receivers that know how to run routes at a pro level? Is the second half game plan pass-based? I've seen look who's playing quarterback in the second half. And then they hand off the ball 23 times in 26 second half plays. Is it a pass-based or a run-based second half? Quarterbacks that can scramble are worth more. Quarterbacks who lack mobility are worth less in the second half. So it doesn't matter who the quarterback is in a lot of these situations. Now, there's not likely to be many emergency betting alerts in August. The money's going to move when the info comes out. That's not a sure thing on a Monday morning, unlike the regular season. Last but not least, Drew, I know I'm rambling on here, but it's important to know this is not a small talk show. Drew's not going to ask me about my summer vacation. I'm not going to ask him about his dating life. There's lots of info to deliver. The clock is already ticking. Monday morning on this show, we work. Let's get into it.
Well done. I like the tee up there, Teddy. And yeah, guys, we are going down using the Wager Talk Live odds screen here, guys. Just go to the tab NFL 103, 104, Houston, New England. That is week 1 NFLX here, Thursday, August 10th. And we're going all the way down the slate to Sunday, August 13th. And we'll end it with rotation number, those little numbers next to the team name on the Wager Talk Live odds screen, San Francisco and Las Vegas. We're going down in order. Not a whole lot of small talk here. We do have a couple questions from Teddy, from guys from past shows here. So feel free to reply below with any questions you have, betting NFL preseason, NFL overall. Any questions overall are welcome here, guys. And huge shout out to the live chat box says, hey, Teddy, I like doing this show with you as well. I was grabbing my notepad. It's week 1. I'm taking notes, listening to you, trying to get an edge as well. And hey, I'm happy. I believe this is the 7th year. So about 1/3 of the time you've been doing this show, I've been your co-host. But let's get after it here, man. 103, 104, Houston, New England, 7 o'clock Eastern. It's the first of 2 games on Thursday, August 10th. And we are seeing Houston -1.5 point road favorites. 38.5 or 39 being the total, depending where you're shopping here. Texans at Patriots to start us off week 1 NFL preseason, Teddy.
And we already have a weird line move, a rare line move. In the preseason, when the money comes one way, it tends to continue coming that way. You don't see a lot of buyback. Houston, New England opened 1.5, got The pick 'em last night has now been bet back up to 1.5. There's even a 2 out there right now for the Texans. So we've seen two-way action on this game already. For the Texans, it's an interesting scenario. They've had 4 new head coaches the last 4 years, 3 offense coordinators, 3 defense coordinators. So we're not talking about much continuity, to put it mildly. We like DeMeco Ryans as a hire. We like him in terms of the potential for wanting to win games in August. I think that's what the money has come on Houston for. But you have a first-year, first-time head coach, Matt Burke, first-year offense coordinator, first-year defense coordinator for Houston, Bobby Slowick, first-year offensive coordinator for Houston. There's a lot of, are these guys going to be able to figure it out the first game together? Concerns for this better. Belichick's been a consistent winner in August. In 2018, 3-1 straight up or better 3 times in 4 tries, only 1 losing preseason straight up during that span. And of course, we're talking about 71%, 10-4 ATS, 2-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-1 against the spread the last 4 preseasons. So, we'll see whether that plays out here, but Houston's not a team I want to lay points with on opening night. I'll tell you that much.
Sure, Teddy. And we got the nightcap here on Thursday, guys. It is 105-106, Minnesota at Seattle. We got 35 being the total and -4 here. That's the Seahawks at home in the Pacific Northwest. What are we thinking, Vikings and Seahawks?
So this line was 2.5 and 35 last night. This morning, we're looking at 4s and 35. So we have seen a fair bit of Seattle money. And you can understand in theory why. Minnesota head coach Kevin O'Connell last year was his first in the preseason, 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread as a rookie head coach last year. Okay, so the rookie head coaches tend to be, if they're interested in preseason, they're going to win some games. 0-3 straight up ATS last year says, well, he's maybe not that interested. And then the team went on to win a division. So O'Connell's like, yeah, okay, that worked. I don't expect him to change their stripes this year. Brian Flores, the new DC, Wes Phillips, second-year OC for Minnesota. Neither guy has shown bet-on potential in August. So we're seeing Seattle money. That said, the Seahawks, Pete Carroll's changed his stripes. He used to care a lot. Dating back 2016, 2017, 7-1 straight up and against the spread. You look at his long-term, it's good. He was a real bet-on preseason coach earlier in his tenure. Last 2 years, Seattle, 1-5 straight up and against the spread. The only win came against another coach who didn't care, Staley of the Chargers, in week 3. The meaningless game of the 3. So the concept of Carroll being a bet-on head coach in August, I'm not convinced that the long-term numbers mesh with the short-term numbers. You're not going to find me laying 4 with the Seahawks on Thursday.
We'll flip the script here to Friday, August 11th, guys. We got 107, 108, 7 o'clock Eastern, as we got a bunch of games kicking off here for the Friday night lights section of NFLX. We get New York Giants and Detroit Lions. We are seeing the G-Men laying 2.5 or 3 here, Teddy, depending where you're shopping. 36.5 being the total, pretty much widely available. Giants at Detroit here in the Motor City. What are we thinking first game on Friday?
Yeah, and this is a legit split line right now. You can take 3, you can lay 2.5. And in the regular season, you look, you take advantage of the situation on a Monday morning. In the preseason, where the 3 isn't worth as much, I'm not grabbing 3s and laying 2.5s here. Doesn't make sense. It's not mathematically right. I'm going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens to open up this. Why is Baltimore? We'll talk about Baltimore later, obviously. But why is Baltimore so good in August? Harbaugh, of course. But also their longtime defense coordinator, who's now the Giants DC, Wink Martindale. Okay. Blitzing teams dominate backup quarterbacks in August. There's one thing you're looking for. It's a defense coordinator that wants to blitz in August against third-string and fourth-string quarterbacks playing behind backup and third-string and fourth-string offensive lines. The blitzing coaches win. And the Giants defense coordinator, Martindale, wins. And last year, the Giants 3-0. Straight up. 2-1 straight up last preseason. The only loss came in that wild week 3 game against the Jets where they scored 27 and lost. That doesn't happen much in August. They did go 0-3 against the spread last year in the preseason, the Giants, but they lost those 3 games by 0.5 point, 1 point, and 1.5 points. Just excruciating for G-Men backers. I think they may well be bet on here. They won the games last year. They played well in August, and they looked to me like they were a team that cared about winning games. Of course, last year was culture change year for the Giants. This year isn't. I saw some bet on potential there. For Detroit, look, Dan Campbell's had a couple of preseasons now. In total, one straight up win, one push against the spread, and 1 point spread cover in 2 full preseasons. Everything else was an L for Detroit. So Campbell, not a coach who's shown a lot of signs that he cares about winning this time of year. I'm not surprised the Giants have been taking money.
Teddy, quick question here before we head down to Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay. For anybody new to betting NFLX, you bring up blitzing, and absolutely, man, teams that blitz a lot early in the preseason, you could see why it would cause trouble for teams up front. But I go back to like maybe college football, kind of like the all-star games. I know in high school this happens a lot early in the season. Are there any rules changes from NFL preseason to NFL regular season, or it's all the same rules?
Gosh, I don't even know. Sometimes they try out like a kickoff change on the preseason, or but in terms of anything that from a handicapping perspective is going to change your handicap, no. You know, you can there may be some minutia where there's a preseason rule that they're trying out this year, but nothing that's realistically going to affect your handicap.
Like it. We'll head down here, guys. 109, 110, 7 o'clock Eastern. Pittsburgh at Tampa Bay. -1.5, as high as -2.5 out there in Las Vegas. That's the Steelers is the road favorite. 39.5 the total in Raymond James, Teddy.
Yeah, fairly high total for a preseason football game. Mike Tomlin's been bet on in August. 0 losing ATS preseasons since 2016. From 2017 till today, 15-4 straight up, 13-5-1 against the spread. Tomlin, a coach who seems to care more and more about winning in the preseason. He's the opposite of Pete Carroll, who used to care a lot and doesn't seem to care that much now. Tomlin didn't seem to care that much, and now it appears, if he cares a little bit longer, a pair of returning coordinators for Pittsburgh. Nothing to prove there. Tampa Bay, look, Todd Bowles, 0-3 straight up and against the spread. Last year in the preseason, his last 3 years with the Jets, 4-8 straight up, 0 winning preseasons against the spread. So Bowles is clearly not a bet on guy. You do have coordinator changes in Tampa on the offensive side of the football, and they have co-defensive coordinators this makes the defensive game plan for me a little bit harder to predict. But this is a game where Pittsburgh merits being favorites. They're on my short list for betting this weekend.
Great breakdown, Teddy, as we head down Green Bay, Cincinnati, 7 o'clock Eastern here, -4 in the hook. That's the Packers as the road favorite. 35 the total in the Queen City. We are seeing -4.5, a key offshore showing -5. That's the Packers as the road favorite.
Yeah, so if you wanted to bet Green Bay, you've lost it. You know, they were -1. Last night, they were -2.5. They're -1 at the open, total of 32.5. They were -2.5/3 last night, total of 35. Now, this morning, we're talking about 4.5s and 5s out there. Total as high as 35.5. So we've seen a lot of money for Green Bay and a lot of money for the over in this ballgame. LaFleur doesn't seem to care that much about winning games in August. He's not a coach I'm excited about laying a price with. He won his preseason opener in 2009. That was his first year as a head coach. And again, we look at those first-year head coaches caring a little bit more, especially early on. Since that win in his first game in August as a head coach, 2-7 straight up and against the spread, which is certainly not bet on. Now, for Cincinnati, obviously the money's moved. Oh, Joe Burrow's not going to play. Burrow wasn't going to play. It's a dicey QB rotation. I'm trying to avoid the QB rotation, but this is all about Cincy's QBs. Now, Zach Taylor also won as a rookie head coach in August, but the last 3 preseasons, 1-2, 1-2, 1-3 straight up with the same offensive and defense coordinators that are going to be back this year. So there's no urgency at all from the Cincinnati side. And given their offensive injuries, the betting market's loading up with Green Bay money. Although I'm not sure we have bet against for Cincinnati here. I'm not convinced we got the bet on for Green Bay to merit this type of price. And again, any game you say, all right, I could have laid -1, now I got to lay -4.5. Well, the info's out. You can't win getting on the wrong side of these 3.5. In August or at any time of the year, there are games. If you missed it, you missed it. Maybe there's some value the other way now. But this is one of them. If you like the Packers, if you didn't get down already, for me, it'd be very difficult to lay this price with them here.
Teddy, we get the Atlanta Falcons heading down to South Florida to take on the Miami Dolphins, 7 o'clock Eastern Friday night, -2.5. That is the Dirty Birds as the road favorite. 36 the total in Miami Gardens.
And this we've seen a little bit of under money. I'm going to say this line really hasn't moved a whole lot, but we're 37, and now we're looking at 36. Under Arthur Smith, first year, he didn't do anything in the preseason. 0-3 straight up and against the spread in 2021. Last year, they were a winning team in August, 2-1 straight up and against the spread. New defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen, OC Dave Racone returns for Miami, 2-1 straight up and against the spread last year for Mike McDaniel. They're bringing in Vic Fangio as the new defensive coordinator, someone who we like a lot. The betting markets like him a lot as well. But in terms of early edges, I haven't seen anything for this game pointing me towards one side or the other. We'll look at the local papers again later today and see if we can find something. But this is just your standard. Atlanta, in theory, wants to win more. Atlanta, in theory, has the QB rotation that's better for August. I'm not convinced that's the case. But, yeah, this line's doing nothing right now.
We'll go a half hour later here with 7:30 Eastern kick. 1:15, 1:16, Washington at Cleveland, guys. We are seeing Cleveland, the Browns, -1 in the hook as the home favorite. There is a -1 out there at Caesars in Vegas. We got 38.5 being the total. So we're getting the former football team here at the Browns, Teddy.
And, of course, for the Hall of Fame game, the money poured in against Cleveland. And then Cleveland rallied. They actually played a really good second half in that ball game. For preseason, 2 long 80-plus yard drives. You don't often see that in the second half of many of these week 1 preseason games. So we'll give them credit for that. They've taken money already this week. As you mentioned, Washington was the favorite at the opener. Now Cleveland is the favorite here. Ron Rivera hasn't shown a lot of we got to win in August. 1-5 straight up, 1-5 ATS in 2 preseasons in Washington. Their QB rotation doesn't attract a whole lot of attention. Kevin Stefanski for Cleveland, 3-0 straight up as a rookie, then 1-2 last year. But they did win. They win week 1 by double digits. So I can understand why Cleveland's taking the money in this one. The question is, do you want to lay a price now with a team that you could have taken a plus price with just last night?
Teddy, we got one nightcap here, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. That's 117, 118. Last game on the card for Friday. Denver at Arizona. We're seeing the Broncos, big favorites here. I believe the highest, the highest on the board for week 1. I'm seeing -5.5 point road favorites. 37.5 being the total. So we get Broncos at Cardinals in the desert here, Teddy.
Yeah, the Ravens are 6 right now. They've taken a bunch of money off the 3.5. And again, most of these are from the over. Last night, I'm like, there's only put a piece. I'm like, there's only 3 games that are higher than a field goal right now. And then the betting markets went crazy overnight, and then I deleted that from my thing in the intro because it was no longer valid. We have seen a lot of money for Denver. Look, Sean Payton, week 1 of the preseason, has not been bet on. 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread, last 5, dating back to his tenure in New Orleans. He wasn't a bet on QB and a coach in August in general. Now, he is trying to change a culture, and he is walking into a new spot. And he does have a pair of new coordinators to work with. So for Peyton and the Broncos, they don't have the track record that I'm looking for to lay this type of price. Now, everybody wants to fade Arizona. Arizona with the youngest head coach and 2 coordinators that are brand new and debuts, and you can expect their quarterback is hurt. You expect some growing pains from the Cardinals in this week 1 opener. It may well be a cluster for them, but I don't feel comfortable laying this price with Denver. We have the bet against for Arizona. We don't have the bet on for Denver to merit laying this type of a price.
We got Saturday, August 12th slate up next here, guys. Full day of football, 1 o'clock Eastern, and hey, we might be going towards midnight on the East Coast as we got 119, 120 first game up here on Saturday, Tennessee and Chicago. 37.5 being the total. We are in the Windy City here with the Bears laying -3.5, hosting the Titans. Start us off on Saturday, Teddy.
Yeah, Bears have taken money. This one opened 1.5. Now we're seeing 3.5s out there. For Chicago. Total's been bet up as well, open 34.5, pretty much across the board. And now we're seeing 37.5. So looking at that WagerTalk live odds screen. For the Titans, Mike Vrabel, back in 2018, 0-4 straight up and against the spread in August. Since then, 6-4 straight up, 6-2-2 against the spread, 2 games pushed with 3-point wins. But here they can lose by 3 and still cover the number. We've seen a coordinator change kind of on the offense. They promoted Tim Kelly after last year was just their passing game coordinator. This year is the full offensive coordinator. Of course, they did rank 30th among 32 NFL teams in net passing last year and 28th in touchdown passes. So Kelly got the promotion anyway for Vrabel. I don't necessarily blame him. On the other hand, Eberflus last year, he cared. They went 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread in August. They were dogs in all 3 games, +3, +3.5, +1.5, and they won 19-14, 27-11, 21-20. The offense worked. And the offense should work for Chicago in August. This is a team that has mobile QBs and a game plan that involves quarterbacks running the football. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears once again show some bet on. And again, 2 returning coordinators, some continuity for Chicago this year in a way there wasn't last year. You do worry about the coach, and Eberflus was trying to change a culture last year and won those 3 preseason games. But in this situation, -3.5, yeah, I could only probably take the Chicago side in this one. The price might not be right for me to get to the window with.
He's Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. Check him out, WagerTalk.com. Got this next game here, Teddy. I almost feel like if we were like in a university, like 101 level, handicapping the NFL preseason, just because this would be a great case study. We get the Indianapolis Colts at the Buffalo Bills. If this was in the regular season here, guys, like week 1, what would this price be? In Buffalo, the Bills hosting the Colts. Well, no. We're not week 1 of the NFL regular season. We're in the preseason here, and sure enough, the Colts are -4.5-point road favorites, 39 being the total. Heading to the state of New York here, Teddy. Bills hosting the Colts, and the Colts -4.5-point favorites.
Yeah. So at the very top of the show, I was giving out a handful of points about preseason betting in general. One of the things I said is that it has nothing to do with how good the teams are going to be in September, and everything to do with how good they're going to be for this one game in August. And certainly for Indy, Shane Steichen has no track record, first-time head coach. To the coordinators, Gus Bradley, Jim Bob Cooter, and I'm not 2 veteran coordinators, which I think is at least a positive sign in that regard for the rookie head coach. But we have nothing from Indy that screams bet on, except the fact that we're getting these great training camps report from them. We expect them to play their starters longer. Anthony Richardson's got to get some chances, one would think, in August. And then behind him, you have veterans, which is something that the bettors really like. They like the veterans in the second half against backup and 3rd string and 4th string defenders, which is nice in theory, as long as they have an offensive line that can block in front of them, which doesn't always happen, especially against Buffalo. McDermott and the Bills at 9-1 straight up and against the spread in preseason since the start of 2019. 5 of the 7 wins came by more than a touchdown. The only loss last year was week 3, and that game where McDermott sat everyone for a team trying to win a Super Bowl. Why have they been so good? Depth, quality depth is very real for the Buffalo Bills. Is it still there? Well, we'll find out this week. But Indy's enthusiasm and veteran presence at the QB position in the second half of this game versus Buffalo starters not getting a whole lot of PT, etc. It may be a spot where Indy gets out. If I'm playing Colts, I could only play them first half in this ballgame. I don't trust them. I don't know if that's the case. Now that I'm thinking about it, never mind that, because Indy does have a QB edge in the second half, but not -4.5 against McDermott. It's too high, at least in this bettor's opinion.
Sure. Great stat there. McDermott and Buffalo 9-1 straight up ATS since 2019 in the NFL preseason. Teddy Covers bringing the heat. Teddy, quick question here, man. You're bringing up Indianapolis, the reports from training camp. One thing I've noticed after the last couple years, mainly in college football, but maybe it can happen more in the NFL. Do you think there's anything towards these writers? I've just noticed it time after time, like pumping up the program, pumping them up like it's their job. Like, oh, he's spinning the football real well. They look really good, and you don't know what to believe. How do you decipher that kind of stuff?
So when it comes to the beat writers, I pay a lot of attention to what they say. And then when they're wrong repeatedly, I pay a lot less attention to what they say. Okay. You know what I mean? If I've got a beat writer that I'm tracking and I'm making a bet on it, and then that info doesn't pan out, I've already got an asterisk on that guy. If it happens the second time, all right, that guy's not a guy I'm going to follow or pay attention to anymore. It really is. There's a trial and error part to it, but it's you don't want to have too many errors before you eliminate a beat writer's opinions from your repertoire.
Well said, Teddy. As we head down the list here, guys, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. The rotation numbers: 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific kick here. New York Jets, Carolina Panthers. We see in 36.5 to as high as 37.5, depending where we're shopping, as the total, and -3.5 at one shop, that being DraftKings and Caesars, -4 everywhere else. On the Wager Talk live odds screen, that's the Carolina Panthers as the home favorite here, Teddy.
Yeah, this is a big line move. All right, Jets open 2.5.
Yeah,
everywhere. -2.5 across the board. Boom, boom, boom. Circa, Westgate, South Point, offshore, DraftKings, -2.5. Now, there's nothing but 4s on the board in favor of the Panthers. So that's like a touchdown move. Robert Saleh, 5 straight up wins and a tie in 6 preseason games. I talked about the game last year where the Giants scored 27 and lost. That was against the Jets. 5-1 ATS for the Jets, 5-1 to the over. The offense has scored 24 plus in all 5 of those games, and the Jets certainly have something to prove on the offensive side of the football this year, although we'll see if Nathaniel Hackett's capable of getting them. But there's something to think about the Jets' backups that offer some bet on in August, in theory. Frank Reich for Carolina, his August track records in Indy were pretty random. The one year he went 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread. The year before was 1-3, 1-3. The year before that was 3-0, 2-0-1, and the year before that was 1-2, 1-1 against the spread. So there's no track record there. There's no bet on or bet against. You have a couple of rookie coordinators in Giro Rivero and Thomas Brown for Carolina. So with the veteran head coach, he does have a couple of coordinators who will be calling their first games, and that's not always a bet-on scenario. That being said, we've seen a lot of knowledgeable money come on Carolina this week. There seems to be an opinion in the betting markets, at least early, that the Panthers want to win this game in front of the home crowd a fair bit. This is one game where home field edge might be worth more than 0.
Why do you think that is? Just like kind of new administration in front of the home fans?
First-year coach, okay. New coach. There seems to be some emphasis on this for Carolina. And they do have veterans behind Young. And Young's going to get a fair bit of playing time.
Makes sense, Teddy. As we head to Dallas up next here, guys. 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 6, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific kick here. Jacksonville Jaguars, -4-point road favorites. They've taken a little money off the opener at 2.5. Cowboys at home here, and the total 37.5 or 38. So we get the Jaguars at the Cowboys here, Teddy.
Yeah, Jags at -4. I mean, look, Doug Peterson last year, 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread in his first year with the team. And they won the division, they went to the playoffs. So that strategy worked for Peterson, not to show anything in August, not to play anyone in August. 3 of the 4 losses last year came by double digits. Offensively, the Jags didn't score more than 15 points in any game. They gave up 24 plus 3 times. Peterson, his last 2 years in Philly, 1-3 straight up, 1-3 ATS, both of those seasons. And Peterson, week 1 of the preseason, last 3 tries, lost 27-10, 31-14, and 27-11, non-competitive in all of those. Oh, and they're laying more than a field goal here, which speaks something about Dallas. Mike McCarthy in preseason openers. Let's see, they lost 17-7 last year. They lost 16-3 in 2021 as part of an 0-4 straight up and against the spread. Preseason, they did play the Hall of Fame game in 2021. But for what it's worth, McCarthy did win his final preseason openers in Green Bay. I'm not sure if the current trend is more meaningful than the other trend, but I'll tell you this. We do have a new offensive coordinator in Dallas, and Brian Schottenheimer, with Kellen Moore moving on this past off season. But Dallas to me is merits a look perhaps as a 4-point dog in this one, despite the recent track record of failure in August for McCarthy.
Just a couple games left here, guys, for the Week 1 NFLX opening line report. If you could help us out, smash that like button. Feel free to reply below. That helps us out with the algorithm as well on the YouTube channel. And again, guys, feel free to chime in the reply section with any questions. We can answer them on next week's show. We got Philadelphia and Baltimore up next here, 7 o'clock Eastern, 127, 128, the rotation number, 35.5 being the total. with the Ravens. -6-point home favorites. You brought it up earlier, Teddy. Highest favorite on the board, Philadelphia at Baltimore.
Yeah, and it merits that. I mean, we've seen nothing but Ravens money. Again, this opened as low as 3 some places, and it's 6 now. And I'm not seeing any signs of buyback on Philly. Nick Sirianni doesn't care. All right. Last 2 years, 1-4-1 straight up, 1-4-1 against the spread. The only ATS win came in a tie in the first 2 years on the job. And of course, Philly went to the Super Bowl last year. So you have a coach whose methodology for August worked. He doesn't care. You do have 2 new coordinators for Philadelphia. So maybe that, is that a good thing or a bad thing for this game? I'm not convinced it's a good thing. They're going to get their feet wet. And look, Harbaugh is now 23-0 straight up in his last 23 preseason games since the start of the 2016 campaign. Of those 23 consecutive wins, 16 of them came by a touchdown or more. So they're winning by margin. You cannot bet against this team in August. I won't bet against. I tried it last year. I went 4-1 against the spread for me, week 1, an 80% week. But the loser was, there's this value betting against Baltimore. And the Ravens won 23-10. No, this is a one-way team. The markets know it's a one-way team. All Ravens money. We may well see more Ravens money between now and kickoff. 23-0. It's the type of thing that tends to get bettors' attention, even though, and again, 16 of those coming by a TD or more. This isn't one where I'm going to say if you haven't bet it, you can't bet it. You can still lay it if you choose. But from a value standpoint, again, laying 6 in a preseason game, not something I do a whole lot.
The old value handicap, stepping in front of the Ravens freight train in the preseason. Tough go of it. We got the nightcap here on Friday, guys. Battle for Los Angeles. Chargers and Rams, 33.5 being the total. -3, there is a -2 and a hook out there, but widely available at -3. That is the Rams as the quote-unquote home favorite here, Teddy.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Rams money. The Chargers were 1.5 point favorites at the open. And it was sitting with LA -2.5 last night and -3 this morning. We'll see some over money for this game, which kind of surprised me. Look, this is he doesn't care versus he doesn't care. All right, there's no bet on in this scenario. These are 2 of my top 2 bet against coaches in August. Brandon Staley, the last 2 preseasons, 1-5 straight up, 2-4 ATS. The only win came against another coach who didn't care, McVay, in a 13-6. That game was, I remember that game. That game was a snooze fest. You do have a couple of new coordinators for the Chargers, something to consider there. Sean McVay, last 2 years, 1-5 straight up in the preseason. McVay's worth noting he's 8-2 last to the under in his last 10 preseason games, but that 8-2 to the under the last 10 is also 2-0 to the over in the last 2. So with 8 straight unders, the last 2 have cashed overs for McVay. We have pedestrian QB rotations here. We're going to see lots and lots of evaluating depth. This is going to be a preseason football game between 2 teams, 2 coaches who don't care if they win or lose. Hard for me to put money, especially on favorites, in that scenario.
Guys, a reminder, ask any questions below in the reply section. Teddy, I got a question for you. The don't care part of the handicap towards the total. College football bowl game, that would make me want to look to bet the over more with 2 teams, 2 coaches that don't care. NFLX, is it the same to bet over, or does not care mean, hey, we're in the middle of the 3rd quarter, let's just do ISOs and dives and get on to the next week?
Oftentimes you'll see that. I'm totals in the preseason, sometimes you find scenarios to get involved. But in general, my ratio is probably, more than 5-1 sides versus totals in August. There's you see a fair bit of randomness. There's going to be mistakes. Sometimes the mistakes are going to cost you money. They cost you overs, and when you fumble at the 2, sometimes you're going to get the pick 6 that's going to give you a cheap touchdown the other way. For me, at least, there's a little bit more randomness in totals than there are in sides for August. And if I'm betting an under, I need to know that it's going to be 2 vanilla game plans. And if I'm betting over, I need to know that it's 2 coaches that are going to air it out. And you do find a handful of those scenarios, but you don't find them week in, week out across the board in the preseason. Like I said, my ratio side total is probably in the 5-1 range for August football.
Sure, Teddy. And guys, we got 2 games left help us out and smash that like button as we head on to the Sunday, August 13th slate, as we get two games, 1 o'clock Eastern here, 10 a.m. Pacific. Kansas City, New Orleans, 131, 132, 37.5 or 38 being the total. -3, that's the Saints hosting the Chiefs in the Big Easy, Teddy.
And of all the alignments we're talking about, this is the most recent one, because I wrote down my numbers before the show started, and we were talking about 1.5s and 2s for this game, and now we're looking at 3s across the board for New Orleans. So that's been a significant move. The 38s as a total are getting bet down a little bit. I'm seeing 37.5s for this one next Sunday. Andy Reid been bet on in August. Last 2 years, 5-1 straight up, 4-2 against the spread. They're 5-1 to the under. They do have a new offensive coordinator this year in Matt Nagy. For the Saints, Dennis Allen, 1-2 straight up and against it in preseason against the spread in preseason last year. The only win came in week 3 against the Chargers, who, as mentioned, don't care. New defense coordinator in Joe Woods this year. Pete Carmichael still calling plays for the Saints. He's the longest tenured OC, I believe, in the NFL right now. But I haven't seen any indication that Dennis Allen is circling this game as something meaningful, which tells me that the Saints, not necessarily a team I want to lay a field goal with on Sunday.
Last game here to end the Week 1 NFLX slate, Sunday, August 13th, San Francisco versus Las Vegas, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, -4.5. -4 is available out there. That's the 49ers as the road favorite, 36 being the total in Las Vegas here, Teddy. We get the 49ers and the Raiders to end the Week 1 slate.
Yeah, note that the San Fran, this is, at the open, this was even higher than the Ravens. The Ravens was 3.5. This was 3.5, 4 at the open. So the betting markets, or the odds makers, kind of taking a statement with San Francisco. And of course, Shanahan, the last preseasons, 2-1, 2-1, 3-1 straight up. 6 of those 7 wins coming by a touchdown or more. Not only they're winning by margin. And when you talk about QB rotations, the 49ers have the bet on quarterback rotation in all of preseason. And everyone's trying to prove something for San Francisco. And certainly Shanahan, a pretty creative play caller. I don't know what he's going to show in August, but the 49ers have been able, again, winning these preseason games consistently by a TD or more. Shanahan's fooling guys in August. New defense coordinator for Steve Wilks, and the quotes coming out of San Fran are really positive. Fred Warner, quote, "It's been a seamless transition. He's come in and he's taken hold of everything, and we all respect the heck out of him already." Here's a quote from Trey Lance talking about the QB room. "I think our quarterback room, as you guys can see, is playing at a real high level." There's a lot, but a lot of bet on for San Fran, although they don't blitz a whole lot. They were one of the, we don't expect to see them blitz a whole lot, although Wilkes blitz more than DeMeco Ryans does. So there's bet on here for San Fran. The question is, do we have the bet against for the Raiders? Josh McDaniels, 4-0 straight up and against the spread last year, is first with the team. We have returning coordinators on both sides of the football. And you have Jimmy Garoppolo and Brian Hoyer as a couple of veteran QBs, but I don't know how much we're going to see of either one of those guys here. I think we'll see a lot of Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders. And he does have mobility, which tends to be a bet-on thing in August. That might not be easy against San Fran's defensive depth is pretty strong. Of the bigger favorites on the board, the one I'm most tempted by right now is probably the 49ers.
Teddy, great NFL opening line report to start it here, guys. And, we will be back next week, same time, same place here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Check out Teddy Covers on WagerTalk.com. If you haven't got his season win total report, you need to check it out, guys. 97-47, 67% winners the last 21 years. Also 15-4, near 80% on the 5% big tickets in NFL preseason week 1 last year. He won 80%, guys, went 4-1. He talked about the one loss, and it sounds like he learned from his mistakes. So go check out his Week 1 NFLX package as well. And, Teddy, I'm seeing a play for only $1 up here as well. As we're coming to the end, man, I'll throw it over to you. Any closing thoughts before we shut this down?
Yeah, so I don't have anything up for preseason Week 1 yet. I will I expect to post something in the not-too-distant future. And, of course, by the end of today, I expect to have something you can take advantage of for $9 Mondays with NFL preseason information. And that's all I got going right now is NFLX. I finished my baseball season at the All-Star break, to focus, to get take a little break and to focus on football, we're dialed in. We're focused on football right now. So again, you get anything that you want, just visit the page over at WagerTalk.com.
For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. Guys, again, it helps us out if you smash that like button. Feel free to reply below. Let us know where you're watching from. Any questions you have, all is welcome in the reply section. Teddy, I see you chomping at the bit here, man.
Just real quick, you said earlier that there were some questions from the summer or something that I hadn't answered. Did we ask those already? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sure. And we do appreciate everybody chiming in with the questions. Yeah, one of them, okay. And actually, you brought up Aiden O'Connell here at the end. How do you kind of do your handicapping? I know you didn't want to say the quarterbacks too much in this show. It's the reason I didn't ask it, but it is a good question. I'm interested as well. How do you these guys kind of making the jump from college to the NFL? How do you bring a lot of how they did in college football in the Big Ten, the SEC, who knows, the Sun Belt, into how they're going to perform in the NFL, or is it totally separate games?
A rookie quarterback's a rookie quarterback, unless he's a non-first round rookie quarterback is a rookie QB. Okay, you expect growing pains, you expect mistakes. A quarterback with mobility like O'Connell sometimes has an edge because they can scramble out of pressure, but you expect a lot of the plays in the second half to break down. It's not just the quarterback. The offensive line has the guys, who probably aren't going to make a team in the second half, and the receiving core. A lot of times you see a veteran QB, you're like, why can't he? No, because nobody's open. The receiver, you have a bunch of rookie receivers that can't get open. So the QB is only one piece of the equation. And when it comes to a rookie QB, I value, especially a non-first round QB, I value mobility as more than any other factor. How good he was in college, when you talk about playing, a quarter or two of an NFL preseason opener, it doesn't. In college, he's playing behind an offensive line and with receivers that he's familiar with and in a system that he's familiar with, et cetera, et cetera. And you just don't get that for week one. So I don't try to put too much emphasis on what a guy did in college in terms of my opinion of what he's going to do for the week one showing. Interesting take, Teddy,
because like a guy like O'Connell, if you handicap college football, like there was a big drop off when he wasn't in, man. That offense with Purdue did not perform the same. So I almost kind of go into it like, hey, maybe this kid is good, and they got something brewing, looking to bet on him. But no, you bring up some good points.
You might be.
Yeah. Another question we got: NFL betting markets in preseason compared to the NFL regular season. You're a guy that knows both. A good person to ask this. Can you talk about the moves in terms of what we'll see here in the NFL preseason? You did mention early in the show, it's a lot of one-way moves. You won't get a lot of buyback. I thought that was interesting. And also, I mean, what are the handles in the NFL preseason compared to the regular season? I'm guessing they're pretty drastic.
Oh, it's pennies compared to, for a preseason game compared to, that being said, the books, they still take action. They still take plenty of action because the NFL regular season is so huge. But in comparison to week one, they take nothing. And, the entirety of the preseason is a non-factor in that regard. When it comes to line moves in August, all right, there are a number of differences that are different from what September. The first one is the size of the moves. I brought up half a dozen games already where the lines move 3 points. We've seen a touchdown line move already, in a game, and another 5.5 and 6 in games blowing back and forth across pick'em, across zero. That you won't see moves like that at all in the regular season. You see a point or two. You're not seeing a 6-point move unless a quarterback's hurt. You really won't. So the size of the moves is bigger. The timing of the moves is different. Yes, we've seen a bunch of action last night and this morning in the NFL preseason, but the information comes out when the coach gives his quotes, and the markets will react accordingly. So I know on a Monday morning in the regular season, hey, this line is going to move. I already see the signs. I see the leading indicator books moving there. And that's where we have the emergency betting alerts during the regular season, because this stuff's going to move, and it's going to move fairly quickly. In the preseason, we've seen a ton of movement already, but the movement comes only with the information and not necessarily locked in on a Monday morning. So bigger moves in August, and the timing of the moves is not as predictable.
Okay. Yeah. I'm picking up what you're laying down here, Teddy. And that's what we had for today's questions. I know we'll get a lot more for the shows as we go forward. So, guys, we appreciate the questions. We appreciate everybody chiming in the reply section and smashing that like button. So, Teddy, I guess come back to you. Any closing thoughts before we shut this down?
Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games. Good luck this weekend. We'll do it again next Monday and each and every Monday right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Such a pleasure. Something about this show, man. It gets my blood going. And I know it does for the audience, too. You know, NFL's here, guys. Let's make some money. Cheers. Good luck.
Let's make some money. For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. Huge shout out to Dan behind the scenes, holding it down in the producer's role. Smash that like button. Cash those tickets. We'll be back next Monday. Thanks for tuning in.